All right, everybody, and welcome back to the True North Vision podcast with my co-host Brian Rogers back out here for our final episode of season one. So this is season one, episode 12, and this one is going to be just me and you, man. You know, when we decided to do this episode and how we were going to do it, it was all about, hey, let's take questions from people and hear what they're wondering about. And I think that's one thing from the leadership point that's big for us is listening to what people want. You know, it's not just about what we want or how we deliver it. And
Sure, and we just sit around anyways all the time and just throw questions back and forth to each other.
that's
And
what
I
makes
think-
us a good partnership with that.
Absolutely, and I think that's going to be something big with these questions is having that person that you can just sit there and bounce stuff off of and educate and grow with each other and take advice from each other, and that's going to answer a lot of these parts of this questions.
I agree, and what a great platform to be able to do it. You know, we're sitting here with the podcast where thousands and thousands of people can listen at any time, and so we can't do anything but thank our sponsors that have our show going for us. You know, between Tommy Hawks, and we'll talk about that a little bit more with what we got going on here. Compass Quest, which is an amazing organization, helping veterans, putting them back on the right track. You know, we've always had a good partnership with them. And then, of course, who we are, 2 Bravo Laser Designs, and True North Leadership Training we've got going on, and Neosho Hardscapes, and soon to be another Tommy Hawks here. I mean, dude, we're way blessed, way more than I think we realize sometimes. And that's some of those, that's the tough part about being new business owners and having that stuff, man. We've got those bad days.
Sure, and I really like this podcast because it's going to be every podcast up into here, for the most part, has been very specific based on one topic. But with this one, our listeners are getting to reach out to us, and we're being able to answer those questions for them is something we can do on the fly here and really reach out to the listeners instead of just providing them something that's pre-planned.
Yeah, and with what we do talk about with the leadership stuff and on the leadership side, I can't stress enough how important it is to offer feedback, to get that feedback. You know, we talk about that stuff all the time with the AARs and after-action reviews. If we don't get a pulse of the people that we're trying to influence, we're just kind of leading it down a bad road. You know, I mean, you get stuck in that same rut. You get to hear about that, well, this is how we've always done it, and our ability to be able to kind of cater to needs of, who can listen, who wants to listen, is just going to be even bigger for us, which is good. So, but I want to know, how's Brian been? Because I think Brian's been on a little rocky road here lately. And let's talk about Brian for a second.
Yeah. We all go through stuff in life that trips us up, and those are the things that are going to make us stronger and be better people. So especially with these questions that we're going to talk about today, as a leader, we all have bad days, and we just got to work through it and overcome those things and do it the right way, and rely on people to really have our backs and get us into gear.
And I think that's a really big thing, when it comes to that. A question that we probably got asked, 100 times is, how do we maintain that positive vibe, that positive feel? And I think it's because we kind of pick each other up, because we all have days. I mean, today was a good example for you. Last week was a good example for me. Because life doesn't stop. And, so when we're talking and we're having these conversations and trying to get better, we can't do that. If you can't do that. People out there can't do that unless they've got a good support channel. If you've got that ability to be able to be candid, and, obviously you have to be able to kind of have a decent-sized wall sometimes, because stuff's still got to get done. I mean, make no mistake about it.
Definitely.
But that ability to have that breakdown moment, know that you're not going to be judged for it, know that, you can trust each other, is really kind of what defines us out here.
Yeah, and I think leaders, when they see themselves as a leader, they're in a higher position, and they forget that they're not alone. When they think that they're alone and that they're at the top, they don't have anyone to fall on. So it's very important to have that support system, and just remember that you got to reach out to those other leaders that are around you, and even your staff. They're there to help you too. And when you build that relationship with your staff that you can go to them for their support, then that's going to just be huge for them that you're confiding in them with those type of things.
And even away from the work thing, just talking life stuff, man. Really, when you really fundamentally break it down, that old saying, "No man is an island," it never proves more true than and just in our normal day-to-day activities and what we going on. I mean, it's completely separate from the leadership development. One thing we always talk about with the leadership development is we're not necessarily looking to, create better leaders, but better people. It's amazing how much all of that plays into it, and being a better version of yourself and all that. And like I said, so we've got questions from all different groups of people from different areas. And one of the biggest questions that we'd gotten asked probably 30 times in our message box was, what do we like to do for fun? And if we address that one, get that one, because, I think a lot of people, they see the work side. They see, what we do on that side. They see what I post on social media. I know you're a lot less with the posting on social media. You're more of a kind of the private guy.
Sure.
And for me, I'm like, I'm just going to put it out there, let the chips fall where they may. But even with that, I think people really want to kind of know what we like to do for fun, what we enjoy doing that's not necessarily work-related or leadership development related or, making tumblers related. So what do you like to do for fun, Brian?
When you have the ability to disconnect from work, it's very important that you do disconnect from work. And with us in our line of work as entrepreneurs, work is everything for us. It's 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to find that outlet is very important. I'm big into mountain biking, and you know that. And
Oh, yeah.
I like my bikes, and I have 5 of them.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal to me, and I just make sure that, that's my zen time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the woods, on the trail. That's a big deal. So I can disconnect and really go.
You also get
That's
good
huge.
Jeremy time.
Yeah.
Bringing up Jeremy, you are different. Like watching you with him and how you are as a dad, to me, I'm a dad too. I've got 2 boys, that are getting older. So watching that where he's younger and watching how you are and how you have to answer questions and how he's just so full of, well, what about this and what's this? And he's such a smart kid, that's got to constantly keep you on your toes.
Yeah, absolutely. And, having a kid, I thought it would be great. It's the scariest thing in the world because I got to put so much time into him and just really give him the foundation that he needs. And, with me, I, right out of high school, straight into the military, was an athlete in high school as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just always motivated. And it seems like I chose the right paths and didn't make as many mistakes as my brother. We were raised the exact same way. And he ran into a lot of mistakes in his life. And to see him come out of those and become a great man for his family is great.
Mm-hmm.
But just knowing, raising a kid, my parents were amazing parents for both of us, and we both had 2 different paths.
Yeah.
So that fear factor of I've got to do all this stuff for my kid, and then it could still,
Everybody,
who knows what
I think
path
good
he's going to
parents,
choose.
good parents worry about that. I mean, that's just how it is, and I wanted to apologize to anybody that's listening for the podcast. If you hear a little bit of noise in the background, that's just our big old bulldozer out there right now plowing the way for our new Tommy Hawks that we're putting in out here with axe throwing and cornhole and all those games that are non-electronic, to be out here and to come and enjoy the venue and hang out here, whether it's date night or whether it's bachelor party, bachelorette party, whatever the case may be. We're going to be having leagues and all that stuff out here, and we're going to be Waddle. Is that correct?
Yes.
Which is a really
World Axe Throwing League.
World Axe Throwing League, to be specific. And, so that's going to be part of our fun, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people, they look at the axe throwing and they see it as, a fad maybe, It's been around for a long time. What's really cool about it is it gives you the ability to disconnect and be in an environment to where you're standing there with your friends, your family, coworkers, and you're throwing axes. You're getting that satisfaction. It's not easy, but when you pay attention to it,
Yeah.
then it is easy. You get when those axes start sticking, that makes you feel good inside. And then that competition, always keeping
Oh, yeah.
competition together with everybody's great. And, right now for us, we have an axe target right outside the door.
Yep.
So, when you're sitting at your desk and
You come walking over. Hey, let's go see who can hit the most targets in 5
Yeah.
throws. And
Absolutely. And
skeet
then
shoot. And
when I get mad
throw
at my
darts.
computer, I
Yeah.
can get up, go out there, throw an axe 5 times, and come back in.
I think every company should have a mobile axe throwing station.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but they don't have that luxury. For us,
No.
we're kind of creating our own environment for people to come out and have that release because we recognize the fact that not everybody can do what we can do and how we can do it. And
But companies can use that same concept
100%.
and create an environment for their employees to give them those outlets.
Yep.
Get up out of your desk, out of your cubicle, and go over here and do this for 10 minutes. That 10 minutes can refresh the brain and just revitalize that employee.
Yep.
And then they can go right back and be motivated and sit back down at that desk and knock some more work out.
Yep, and I like the points that you made about what the disconnect and what it is that you do for fun and being able to escape. I kind of had that little reality check this week with Ethan and Ryan, my boys. Because I have them half the time, and I was getting ready to pick them up, and I'm all excited to see them and have them, and to have one of them be like, "Oh, I just kind of want to stay at mom's," and I'm like, well, why? And when he gets into talking about, for me, it's been all work. I haven't been getting that good quality time with them, and that was a real reality check for me. That need to disconnect because I work all the time, and I enjoy working all the time. But I kind of get that tunnel vision of this is what's going to happen, got to get it done. We're on this timeline and feeling the pressures of new business stuff, feeling the pressures of the leader side of the house and all that. And it's that recognition of my boys need that leader as well. They need that time for me to disconnect, focus on them, do what it is that they want to do. And so that's been kind of my week here lately. They went up and visited my mom up in Wisconsin, which was awesome. And I got a chance to go up there, which is the reason why we had this little break on the podcast, because we do have life other than this and trying to get back to that. So, for me, I like to, I love to fish. I get my time to fish. I love golfing with the old man. If I get an opportunity to golf with the general, I like to take it. Unfortunately, this year, we've been out twice, and
Yeah, compared to last year.
yeah, compared to last year, we had a lot of different opportunities to be able to go out and golf, but this year it's been weather, it's been time crunch on a lot of the things that we've got going on, so it's kind of made it. So for me, what I like to do in the free time is I do like to be with my boys, and I do like to be with my dad. My dad's best friend on the planet, and talk to him about anything, share anything with him. And so that part, I've tried to get more back to being able to do that and create those opportunities to escape from here and not have it be all about, True North, and not have it be all about 2 Bravo. And it's a fickle business. I think that's one of the big things as a leader, is you have to be able to disconnect, or else you're just spinning wheels.
Sure.
Spinning wheels.
And, just by us talking here, I think we've answered a lot of the questions that we're about to bring up.
Yeah, but obviously we kind of want to go more in depth with them, and we will. The big thing is, so when we decided to do this week, I had made the post on most of the social media sites, whether it be LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, saying, hey, if you guys want to ask us questions, We're going to pick 3 different names, give away a True North hat, give away a 2 Bravo laser design 10-ounce lowball tumbler. It's got the 2 Bravo logo on it and stuff, just to kind of celebrate, the fact that we appreciate that people are listening, that people really want to know, what it is that can improve their quality of life, improve the quality of life at work, at home, and all that stuff. So completely excited to be able to address those questions, and, we'll announce the names of who asked those questions.
Yeah, I think the great thing about it is we want the ability to share our knowledge and our experiences. And if we can get those questions to come in, then it really gives us the ability to provide our outlook to other people.
Definitely.
The more people that you can get their experiences from, that's all that part of that building process of the maintenance of continuing to be a good leader.
Definitely.
Which is
and on
a question that we have.
Yeah. So on that, let's go ahead. What is the first question? Who is it from on there? Because I'm going to play right off of what you just said, and we'll continue right on it. So this first person that's getting the hat and tumbler.
So Joey from Vegas, he asked, what makes a good leader?
Well, the biggest thing that you just kind of pointed out, I think there's a million different things. We had talked about, so we had a guest speaker in about a year and a half ago, Andy Nemo, who's one of the chiefs over at Joplin Fire Department. The one thing he had everybody do was write down on a piece of paper what are 3 characteristics of a good leader. And after it was over, we read them. Everybody had different answers. So when you say, what makes a good leader, that's wide open, completely wide open. For me, thinking what you just said, I think one big thing, and just addressing it off of this question, is one big thing that makes a good leader is selflessness. And I don't think that could be better defined off that question than that knowing that everything you do is bigger than yourself. There's times where you have to be a little bit selfish when you have to do that to replenish your soul. You have to be able to take that time away to do whatever. But if it's one thing I've always recognized out of good leaders, out of good people that I wanted to be around, is that real selfless mindset that, hey, not asking, so what's in it for me, but what's in it for the team. If you can have that ability to help other people, we should be doing it. Just like we were talking about with your man, Garth Brooks, more money than Dave Crockett. He's been an entertainer for so many years. And you were saying something about someone breaking down on the road and on 44.
Yeah. And a woman and her family were broke down. Car was no good. And he had the resources to go out and get her a car. So that, for him, gives him a good feeling. Mm-hmm. That makes him feel good. So that brings him up. And the ability to recognize what can he do in his position. So he's obviously his own gig. So, yeah, he has his team that he works with. But, he's sitting at his house writing whatever he's doing. But yet, so he has to go out and he uses his abilities to impact someone else's lives.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily take money to do that. To be selfless, it doesn't mean that you have to have a gazillion dollars to share with the world to be selfless. Sometimes selfless is just that ability to listen to somebody when they've got something going on. When you could tell something is really bugging somebody, to just listen to it. Not necessarily react to it, whatever the case may be, but to just kind of take it all in, let them vent, let it get it off their chest, and help them in that healing process. That's all, are making them better, improving them, whatever the case may be. Selflessness, what makes a good leader, I feel like that's one of the ones that are at the top of the list. And we'll expand on that more when we get into the other questions about some of the other stuff. But
I think what makes a good leader, for me, one of the things is bringing someone up to your level.
Definitely.
Teaching them what you know. If you can train them to take your job, then they're going to exceed or excel and then move up themselves.
Got it. So we'll come back. We're going to hit more of this right now. We're going to hear from 2 Bravo Laser Designs, and we'll continue on.
Sounds
Be right
good.
back. from 2 Bravo Laser Designs, our favorite, kind of close to our heart. For anybody that is out there listening, is not quite sure, where to go for the tumblers and stuff like that, they can go right to 2bravolaser.com and get their awesome, amazing tumblers that we make here and set out and push out to people.
And any questions there, the website is under construction. So,
yeah,
we're working on it. So feel free.
I know Jeff was
shoot
working
some
on it
messages
yesterday.
out.
He had me take a look at it, and I'm like, I see what you're doing there. But we're going to continue to be adding stuff on there and prettying it up, churching it up for people that want to go on there and check it out. And you can always just reach out to us, too.
Sure.
If people want tumblers and all that promotional items for their companies and businesses, we're right here for it. So
Absolutely. And we like custom.
Yeah.
So a lot of people ask us, well, what's a minimum order? And it's just one.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever design you want, we can do the graphics work for it. We can make that stuff up to laser
you
that
guys do
stuff
that
on
amazing. Like, I know I'm part of 2 Bravo Laser Designs too, but truth be told, the just ability to Cerakote weapons and make them look all pretty. Like, every time he does another one and he takes a picture of it, or I go over there and see it, I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to post that one on Facebook. Or on LinkedIn. And if anybody's seen some of the work that Jeff's been doing over there, like the Nintendo one, the battle worn American flag one, all that stuff, we do all of that out of here. And that's just a matter of new guns, used guns, old guns, whatever. You bring them in, and for the most part, I think we have you're listening. It's good to know your page. For those that are not quite sure what was going on right there with that laugh or that blinking thing that you were doing, when we were on break, I was telling Brian about the fact. I was like, dude, you got to blink more, man. You're making me nervous because the stare goes on. I'm over here counting 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000.
Yeah, and my explanation, I got to be ready for the attack.
I get it, man.
I can't miss it.
I get it. Always vigilant, always ready to go at any moment's notice, which is cool. So getting back into what we were talking about earlier, coming from Joe in Vegas. First off, and another thing, congratulations to him. He just got a brand new job opportunity working with one of those 3-letter organizations, which is fantastic. He was an interpreter in the military. Dude, he loves America, wants to make things better. And, he's definitely outspoken, and he's all over the place. But, man, there's something about that guy. There's something that can be said for real, for genuine, and he's definitely one of those guys. So I'm happy that we decided to choose one of his questions to get gear out to and have him rep it for us.
Sure. And, with that line of work, when I was overseas, I worked directly with the Iraqi Army.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a lot of interpreters.
Yep.
And, one of our interpreters did 7 tours with the Marine Corps.
Goodness gracious, dude.
And, to show appreciation for his dedication, he was offered American citizenship.
Yeah.
So when he came here, and what does he do? He has a million opportunities here in America. What does he do? He joined the Army as an interpreter, as a linguist. So that just speaks volumes to him growing up in Iraq and then realizing how important our values are in the United States, that he still wants to come here and help the United States.
Definitely.
It's a big deal.
Definitely.
So we love those guys a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Nothing but love. I mean, it that's a lot. You're, as an interpreter, I feel what I've seen, can be isolated, because you have to kind of play both sides of the fence in conversations, and you have to be able to understand mannerisms and definitely the atmosphere and the attitude of those that you're talking to and all that stuff. I mean, those skills are just, that blows my mind. I couldn't. Well, one, I couldn't do it. I don't, speak. I don't speak any other languages, fluently. But just that ability to do that, I mean, that task in itself, to be able to adjust tone and everything you got to do, you just can't do anything but love guys like that.
It's a big deal. We love those guys. Sherry in Canada.
Let's unleash it.
Brings up a big question. I think this is very important, and it's a huge question I think everybody runs into. And that is, what advice would you give someone going into a leadership position for the first time? And I think that everyone immediately gets fear factor.
Yeah.
It's a very scary thing when now you have that responsibility and people looking up to you. So what's some advice you got with that, Jimmy?
Let's see. For me, coming into that new role as a first-time leader, first is to try and take some of the qualities of the good leaders that you've had before you and learn from those lessons from the leaders that weren't that good. What is it that affects you? What is it that you're like, man, there is no way I'm doing that for that guy? And on the other side of it, this was good stuff. I love the way they communicated with me. I love the way they asked my opinion. I love the way they made me feel included and not, kicked off to the side, because I think you see that a lot on the civilian side, and we'll address this more, is when people get into a lot of those leadership roles, they kind of close off. They're so scared to lose their job. They're so scared to look bad that they don't take advice, or they take too much advice, and they get run over. So for a new first-time leader is, one, accepting the role. You're now in that leadership position. That is your role. You need to own it as the leader of that role. Second, always be learning. This is another question I know that she's going to ask, is always be doing the self-improvement side of the house. What is it, do internal AARs with yourself. How did this last meeting go over? How did they respond when I said, this is what needs to get done? And then going from there.
Yeah, and one advice that I would give is, when you take that new leadership position, you might not know your team, or you might have been promoted within the team. But the big deal is to sit down with your team and really get to know them, build that bond with them, learn what they did, where they grew up, what they do for hobbies. That's important to them, that you care about them as a person. And then when they're having problems at work and you know a little bit more about them, a little bit about their history, their childhood, then you can kind of understand them a little better as a person. And you look at them as a person instead of an employee. So you have that, your heart pulling instead of just the business side. Definitely. And the other thing that I think is huge is transparency. If you are holding knowledge that makes you feel empowered because you have it and others don't, then you're in the wrong thought process.
Definitely, and it comes back to that whole trust thing too, because eventually that information gets out. Eventually,
Exactly.
Eventually people know that you've known that information for a while, and it starts to break that trust. So that ability to, just always being transparent out the gate, saying, hey, this is what we got going on, and dealing with it. And that rolls right into that next question that she asked as well.
Yeah, well, what are you doing to ensure growing as a leader?
Rolls right into that. Growing as a leader is doing those internal AARs. Asking yourself, what did I do right? What went wrong in this? What did I do wrong? What can I do to improve it? What can I do to create a better environment for those that I'm working with? Because as a leader, again, goes back to the selfless. You have to be thinking, what can I do to improve the team? What can I do to improve the mission? What can I do to accomplish it better, quicker, more fluent? You roll right into that. That's the beauty of leadership. That's just basically human skills. It's just human thought processes on figuring out what it is that makes people tick.
Yeah, and coming into a new leadership position, there's a little bit of pride there, but you got to be careful with it. And don't let that go to your head that you're now the boss. So, sitting down with your team and saying, hey, I'm a new leader now, and I need to grow with my team as a leader. So relying on the team to help guide you on what the team needs is very important. And letting them know, this is my first step. Yes, I was given the position for a reason, but this is my first time. So I want to grow with you guys. I need that feedback. I want to know what you guys think. What can I do for you?
Yeah, exactly. And, when you're talking about ensuring that you're growing as a leader, some of the things that I talk about in class is the personal and professional development. Something that you need to be doing every single day is working on yourself. Working on yourself, whether it's watching a YouTube video on how to better understand your job, how it is to better understand people, how it is to develop as a human, as a leader. That's really important. The professional development is knowing your job better and finding out ways to improve yourself. Once you do that, you get online, go on to YouTube, bring up some things. Because, like when we're talking about in the leadership class, so we're not looking at making 1,000 different Jimmys, 1,000 different Brians. If you want to be effective and you want to grow as a leader, it's figuring out who you are and being the best version of that, And
Absolutely.
I can't stress that enough how important that is to go from that and then improve yourself professionally. If you become a subject matter expert, which you should be if you got moved into that role, we all know that we're not because we're learning a bunch of different new things. When you move into that next level, obviously that's why you've got the different levels. That's why you've got the other things that are going on. But if you're really learning how to professionally be more effective, not necessarily building a better wheel, but just a good solid wheel that people could turn to and look to when they have a question on any type of subject.
Yeah, and Sherry also asked, what is one characteristic every leader should possess? And that's
Go
a big
for
one.
it. Yeah, I'll let you go ahead and tackle that one first because I already know what mine is.
It might be the same.
Could be.
Empathy.
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
It's not. So, yeah. I mean, I do not at all disagree with you that empathy is so huge when it comes to leadership that I think there's multiple that a good leader has to have when it comes to characteristics.
Sure.
So empathy would definitely be on that list. That's on my top 3, no questions asked.
Yeah, and when I think about empathy and how it affects a leader, the ability for that leader to understand what they can about their team is huge.
Dude, I feel like
And
empathy should be in schools. I feel like they should be teaching that there. I feel like that should be a life skill that right out the gate. You have got your 5-year-old, doing stuff, whatever. You're talking about empathy. You're trying to get them right away, right out the gate as a kid, learning how to put themselves in other people's shoes.
listening
Yeah.
is part of empathy. Just opening your ears and hearing what's going on, listening to that feedback from your team, and just understanding what's going on with them and do what you can to go find them the answers.
Yeah, and again, that's not even a leadership thing. That's okay. So we had another mass shooting. So you got that. It regenerates. It kind of kicks up that dust again on that conversation. Oh, we need better gun control. We need all this. It's like I get it. I get the idea of that you want to improve gun control and you want to have a better system in place for those who can obtain weapons and all that stuff. For me, when that question was posed, I'm like, why are we not recognizing the personal accountability and the parental accountability of not raising little jerks? Why are we not making the focus on empathy, getting people to better understand each other? That, it's much better to bring people up. It's much better to, because empathy, a lot of people kind of confuse sympathy and empathy. And I think that miscommunication on what those two are is big.
It can be offensive.
Yeah. So when we talk empathy, and you're talking empathy, you're talking about that really understanding people,
And understanding that you don't understand.
Yeah.
That is the big part, because that's where you cross that line into sympathy. And if you are trying to be sympathetic to something you don't understand, you haven't been there, done that, then that's going to cause some tension.
Yeah, so we're going to get more into the current event. So this is what I'm thinking, okay, because I want to stay on this question, and we'll get to this question, but more on the empathy side and the understanding side. So the other day I was sitting out by the fire, and I was just thinking out there, and this is just going off of what it is that you're talking about, how important empathy is. And this, I feel, covers as far where we are in current events, where we are on this planet, where we are in America right now, that it's a really big deal with the empathy side and the trying to understand side. So I had this thought in my head when I was thinking about inner city violence right now, the perpetual state of violence and gangs and the method of living there. One big thing that I was thinking about is, so these kids that are coming up and they're growing up, they're 10, 11, 12, when they start to really have that really impressionable age, are all of a sudden seeing these people that they look up to murdered, killed, doing certain things, in the middle of gunfights, all that stuff. Stuff we faced as military guys as adults. So to think that a lot of these kids aren't coming up with PTSD is ridiculous.
Absolutely.
And so when I think about it from the empathy side, it's really easy for somebody that lives, say where we live, to be like, well, just when you get older, move out. Great in theory, but if I've got all my buddies here, right, and it's just constant state of anxiety, this constant state of worry, and my buddies are all facing that worry, am I going to leave?
No.
Hell no. I'm going to be right here with you, and I'm going to have your back, ride or die, and we're going to get through it together. And I think a lot of that is that same exact mentality. And from the empathetic side and recognizing it, it's given me more of an understanding of why that continues to happen. So how do we deal with that? How do we deal with that as leaders? How do we deal that with improving quality of life?
Yeah, and those leaders to them are those people they looked up to.
Yeah.
That's the only environment they had. So what they saw someone who cared about them enough that they can't leave that.
Yeah.
So that's a huge trait as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Having the care, instill that relationship with the people that you're working with.
Yeah, and teaching that empathy side. I guess one of the, seeing that, because I see a lot of things on my Facebook feed about, well, what about all the crime there and all that stuff? And I think putting in perspective for us as military members, we have a much better grasp of that we should be putting that more in a perspective. Like, I would never leave you. If knowing that I could, be there to protect you or be there, we've been friends for this long, we've been through this stuff for this long, and recognizing that. Well, what about all the crime there? Well, I understand that, and I think that teaching that empathy thing and getting it younger and, and a real psychological look needs to be taken on how we improve that. So many people are just ready to pop off that, well, what about that going on there? We get that, but how do we really fundamentally fix it?
Yeah, because, government can only really control things with laws.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can only do that so much, but if you're not impacting the people themselves, then that change isn't going to happen. Those more laws cause more tension. So it seems like there's definitely something that people need to do with people.
Yeah. And
creating better people.
Yeah, and so I was in a Facebook chat, and it's still continuing to go on with a retired, I believe is either a retired lieutenant colonel or a retired colonel that had made up the point, well, why aren't we talking more gun reform? And I'm like, well, why aren't we talking how do we improve people? How do we instill that personal accountability, and how do we make that better? So I've had this time to kind of stew on it and think about it when it comes to, improving quality of life for people. And I do think it starts at home. I think it's accountability of the parents saying to their kids, like, I don't expect you to just pick up and leave, to pursue a better life. How do we make what we have right here better? How do we improve that? And, the answers to that, man, there's so many different avenues, but I think, it's that awareness of, people really need to know that they need to be taken care of. So we're going to be right back. We're getting ready to take another break, and we'll be back in a second.
Tommy Hawk's Axe House, the biggest axe throwing venue in the Midwest, right here in Springfield. Indoor axe throwing, shuffleboard, cornhole, and more. We are a BYOB establishment. Make your reservation online at www.tommyhawks.net.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the True North Vision podcast. We're back after just hearing from Tommy Hawks. Tommy Hawks, what an amazing organization. So good. We decided we're bringing it right here to the Neosho Joplin area. I know they got that new facility. They just opened up. We just opened up. However you want to put it. However, we're part of the team in Branson and Springfield, Missouri. It's kind of a big deal. I know I've been seeing a lot of the social media stuff for Tommy Hawks in Branson. That place just looks amazing there.
It does. I'm excited to go down there and meet that new partner and in that franchise and build those relationships.
It's going to be awesome, and I think our facility here is going to run the same way as Tommy Hawks in Springfield, talking at about $25 for 2 hours on the lanes. We're going to have 14 lanes here, which is just sick, along with the ladder ball and cornhole and washers and everything else. It's been awesome watching them do that process out there doing the building. I think we're so used to being the ones out there, like Ryan came in yesterday and he was like, so you're just going to sit in here while all those other guys are out there working? I'm like, those aren't our guys. We're paying them to do that. He's like,
yeah, for once, someone else is slaving out here in the field.
Yeah, no kidding. So I'm like, that's right. We're sitting right here in the AC, buddy. He's like, okay, I got you. I feel you. So before we had gone on break, we were talking about, empathy. I mean, you saying that was your top thing that every leader should possess. And, obviously I concurred with you. I think, there's just a pretty decent list there that I think leaders need to have in order to be effective leaders.
Yeah, and it's hard to choose.
It is,
one.
man. It is. Because every situation, I think, almost dictates a little bit different of what you need out of a leader for him to be efficient. And that's one thing we've noticed with teams coming out here, great, solid leaders. And all of a sudden they realize that one strength they have might not be as effective in the field for getting something done.
Okay, so to do
Here
a
we
little
go.
change up here.
Here we go. I love it.
So I've evolved my decision makings on that.
Okay.
So instead of empathy, and we just talked about it depends on the situation,
Chameleon-like.
adaptability.
Adaptability.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's solid. I think we just nailed it right there.
Yep.
I think number one.
Yep.
I think we really just solved the riddle, Batman.
I agree.
think that is exactly what happened. Adaptability.
Yep.
That leader that can adjust fire to what the situation is and be able to get it done. I think I would have to concur on that, man. I can't escape that.
Agreed. We need to get a poster now.
Yeah.
Make some memes.
Yeah, definitely do it. I love doing that stuff on social media and posting that. It'll definitely be the next one coming out, adaptability. So that's definitely, I can't get away from it, dude. That
I know.
just nailed it.
It's good.
I mean, when you think about it, when you think about good leaders, and that almost rolls us right into that last winner's question. What do we have over there?
So Kyle from Joplin asked, how does a proven leader overcome the lackadaisical attitude of companies outside the military?
It's a beautiful question. And we had, of all the questions I think that we received, obviously us being veterans, this one for me, when I read this one, I was like, yeah, this is definitely going to be one of the questions. For one thing, you could even take out the military part of that, a proven military leader, because a good leader is a good leader is a good leader.
Sure.
And it goes back to adaptability, knowing your audience, knowing who it is that you lead, knowing what it is, what the mission is, and not coming in and saying, well, this is how we did it in the military. It's very easy to do. I think us coming out, we've been on that side where it's like, man, if they just run this more like the military, it'd be more efficient. And, that's just true in a lot of aspects. It really is. But if you can find a way to slip in those little bit of things, hey, give that feedback and say, well, what if we tried this? What if we do an AAR? What if we really take a look at it? When it comes to being a good, effective military leader, it's the same thing when you shift from unit to unit. You may have been this proven badass, warrior coming from one platoon, and you get moved to the next platoon, whole different style of guys, whole different, fluidity to the way they accomplish the mission and the way they work together. It's our responsibility as leaders to find out what that is and fit into that mold, not come in and say, this is how I do it, now listen.
Yeah, and, in our leadership training classes, one of the things that I like to kind of push on people is that military op order.
Yeah.
Take the op order, 5-paragraph order, and change that for your company and start issuing out projects that you need done in a 5-paragraph order. The communication stays clear. Everyone knows what's going on. A little confusion gets taken away, gives them something to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And then AARing that, I think it's a really good place to start.
I agree. And then a big thing with an op order, what you're also doing is disseminating what needs to get done. You're saying, hey, this is what your project is going to be, this is what your project is going to be, and this is what your project is going to be. So it's also empowering those that you're giving that op order to. They know what it is that they want. So when I hear the word lackadaisical when it comes from the civilian side, where it's like, there's not real much threat, there's not, not effort, let's get this done, there's no sense of urgency.
Motivation.
Yeah, the motivation part of it. It's our responsibility as the leader to create that, to generate that sense of urgency by being able to say, okay, I need you to do this, this is what you're going to be on, and let them make that their baby. If you let them do that, we've even found in the military, that's how you improve that core. That's how you improve that quality of life for them, is by giving them those tasks and letting them accomplish it. And then, of course, following up. You've got to be able to follow up and say, hey, how this is going. Be there as a leader to provide more stuff for them if they need it. Be able to tell them, hey, we can't do that right now if you can't. I'm not saying, just completely bend over backwards for everybody, because, some people will take advantage of it, but you've got to find a way to make them more efficient. And that's by getting to know them, like you were saying, like you were going into earlier.
Yeah, and one of the things, so we had one company that that attended our leadership training, and one of the big things that I immediately noticed about the company is they wanted motivation, and they'd had a lot of management changes, so their leaders were all new, and they had some people in leadership positions that had been in that position for a long time. Complacency had set in. So I told them a story, and I'll tell you this story. So one of the Marines that I served with, when they were in Iraq, they were on a vehicle patrol. They turned down a street, and a vehicle starts driving towards them. And there wasn't much time. The vehicle was full throttle. So there's a big threat there. Vehicle-borne IEDs were very popular at that time. So the lead gunner was a tow gunner, so an anti-tank missile on a Humvee. And so you got a 60-meter engagement zone before that missile's armed. And that vehicle's closing very quick. He armed the missile, fired before he was on target. The missile launches, goes down, hits that vehicle just over that 60-meter, stops the vehicle. It was a vehicle-borne IED. So his quick reaction time saved those Marines. And how I made an impact with this company is that company actually builds the batteries for that missile system. And I wanted to tell them this story to empower those employees, to let them know that what they're doing every day really does mean something. If their battery fails, then that could cost American lives. So by telling those employees that, that touched them, and it'll give them that motivation to really think about their job every day. And I think that can break up some of that complacency and lackadaisical attitude, to give them the motivation. And I think as a military leader going to a company and seeing that, one of the big deals is most people join the military as a selfless service. Mm-hmm. They want to help.
Yeah.
Well, the reality is, in the civilian world business, the motivation is money. We have bills to pay. We gotta make a living.
Ain't that the truth?
Exactly. So when you have to change that focus as a leader and realize that they're there to make money. So to do something for them as a leader is build that bond inside the team and really get them to like being at work. If you can build the brotherhood that we have as veterans for your office, then they're going to enjoy being around those people more. They're going to motivate each other and push each other.
Yeah.
And it'd be awesome.
And I think that's one big thing that we help with without a True North is we recognize the fact that, that military needing that family stuff is extremely important. So it's like when we go and talk to companies and businesses, obviously our main goal is to help with the culture. You can be the best leader in the world, but if you're in a great leader in a culture of, the backstabbing, of the hearsay stuff, of the he said, she said, of, those little things that chip away from why people want to come to work in the first place, it's extremely difficult. And if we have an opportunity to talk to them, to recognize that, to say, this is what you need to work on. You need to be more transparent. You need to communicate better with your team. You need to be more effective with this. If we get an opportunity to have that group in here first and say, this is why it makes a difference. You take a look at our guys. I mean, we've got 25 guys out here that come and know all this stuff about each other. There's stuff that we still work through, but that culture is the fact that people want to be here. And we've learned to do that by, I had that one quote that I had put on one of the memes in regards to, if you want to put together a team to sail with your ship, whatever it is, to go discover, you don't tell them how to slave over building the ship and gathering wood. You describe to them and make them want what it's like on that open water.
The end goal.
Yeah, the end goal.
What's the reward they're going to get out of it?
Exactly. And to me, that's what really makes that different. You could see those successful companies that have that really good, solid culture because their leaders are really kind of pushing that. Now, we've worked with companies that have really struggled with that, with what their mission is, with what their goal is, so they don't know how to quite approach that. And then when, you have a group of people that aren't quite sure how to lead or have their specific ways of leading, it's just dynamite. It's dangerous. It's that, 50-pound barrel of dynamite that's just, or gunpowder that's, sitting under just waiting to go off. And when it happens, it's a vicious cycle, and it's tough to break.
Yeah, and as a company, get your employees out of the office or do something at the office, but get their head out of the office. I know Jimmy is big on campfire time. So that campfire time for you is a release, a bonding, a way to get work out of your head and be around the guys you're still working with.
Mm-hmm.
But you're building a different relationship with them when you have that campfire time.
Yeah.
And that campfire time, that's a metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
So for you and me, it really is a campfire because, we have 9 of them around here.
Oh, yeah.
So, but as a leader, find that campfire time for your employees to really learn each other, who they are, and then they'll want to work harder for each other in the office.
Yeah. And another good way to really point that out, even if you've got the most fun job in the world, which we tend to do, we have a lot of fun doing what we do, and we've got all that stuff going on. Another good example of that is, like the sports teams. Take a look at Joplin Outlaws. Those kids, 21 years old, get to play baseball over the summer. They're out there together. They get to play baseball every single day. Talking to their parents, what's the one big thing they talk about? Coming out here to do training with us. That's the stories that they tell. That's the stuff that they share because for them, baseball's a job. They love it. They enjoy it. But that ability to get away and as a team and work together is what bonds them together. And that could be said about anything. It was like that when I was stationed in Korea for a year. We've got Vern here now. And Vern and I have been friends for over 20 years because what happens was, we're in the unit together. I was in that unit with how many 100 people, but it would be me and him and Kurt Graves and Herg and Mountaintop. We'd hang out together outside of that and go and see Korea and travel around and do that. And that was the stuff that bonded us together. So we, get to share that. And, as leaders, you really need to want to instill that with those teams or with your people.
So something pretty much along the same lines you said, in the Marine Corps birthday is a big deal to us. The Marine Corps really instills its history. So
that's one thing I love about the Corps is
it is great.
That pride that's
Sure.
involved with it.
So it's the 10th of November every year.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since I got out in 2010, but the group of guys that I was with, we still get together every single year to celebrate the Marine Corps birthday. And it's great because we get to see each other. With social media is great because we can really stay in touch.
Mm-hmm.
But and see each other's lives and what all we're doing. But we still get together every year and keep that bond. And if you can build your office place to have that kind of family and bond, then each employee is going to help each other. When one of them is struggling, the other one's going to pick up the slack because they care about that individual.
Yeah. And it's right now it is such a tough time in this world. I mean, really looking at it, like I was, I still have got to give my shout out to Biographics. I told you about that YouTube page. Have you watched it at all?
I haven't yet.
Dude, you have got to get on it. Okay, so another big thing I noticed on social media, they're talking so bad, everything's so bad, everything, right now everything is going down the gutter, and oh my God, it's the most dangerous time we've ever, that of America, and whenever we lived. Dude,
And every generation has thought that.
I know. Okay, so my point to that is this YouTube page that I watched, the Biographics, talks about people in history, like growing up and all that, so it can't help but hit different periods of time. And seeing how people did business back then, it was like, man, I don't like that guy. Boom, dead, gone. Oh, yeah, you want to start a genocide? Cool. Yeah, done. Let's go. Let's just start burning Christians. You know what I mean? Like, here it's like, oh, my God, he offended me and hurt my feelings. And then social media warriors are like, man, you suck. You're the worst person ever to ever exist. It's like, no. Go ahead and watch a 20-minute documentary on Nero, and let's have this conversation again on Pol Pot.
Yeah, and something I realized is, so big show right now. It's 4th season. I think it's over. I don't know if they got a new one coming out, but Peaky Blinders on Netflix.
Yeah.
Takes place post World War I in England.
Mm-hmm.
People are killing each other because one family is English and one family is Italian or Irish.
Yeah.
They're just killing each other because they're from a different part of the world.
It's been
and
that way all through history. People tend to think, the different stuff is an American problem. I hate to say it, but and I don't hate to say it. I'm actually proud to say it, is the fact that America is easily the biggest melting pot of where you can actually put everybody all in the same room, and they're not going to just start hacking at each other with a machete.
Exactly.
Or,
racism, I think, there's less of it in the United States. When you start traveling the world, it's different.
Oh, yeah. And it's still there. Unfortunately, it'll always be there. We got to keep doing what we got to do to try and eradicate it, but it'll never happen. So you shun those people that kind of like act like that and be like, whatever, dude, get to kicking rocks.
And I think the best place that you really get rid of racism is in a foxhole.
Oh, yeah.
A fighting position.
Yeah, 100%.
It doesn't matter who's standing next to you, where they came from, what they did before. You got each other's backs, and that is what's important.
Well, I'm glad we got an opportunity to answer these questions today. It was awesome. We're getting ready to move into season 2. It's going to be big. Be sure everybody's listening to like, share, follow our page, spread the word for this. It's a big deal. We're trying to help other veterans, trying to help people be better versions of themselves. We're going to get to hear from Compass Quest real quick for a quick second. And we're wrapping this up. Brian, always a pleasure, dude.
Absolutely. One more thing. Thank you guys, Sherry and Kyle and Joey, for those questions, and keep those questions coming in, and we'll get your stuff out to you.
Definitely. Awesome. Just like that. Jimmy out. An effective leader isn't determined by the number of medals on their chest, or the certificates on the wall, degrees they've earned. A good leader is defined by the number of times their name is spoken around the campfire, late at night when no one's watching. The ones that impacted lives through action, they are defined by conversations had around the kitchen island, when the wife says to the husband, "My boss cares." If you want to be a good leader, empower people. Promote the success of others. Protect and promote who they are. That's what matters. Our product is in those we lead as leaders, not what's coming off the line. Our product is those that we lead. Our product is compassion. If you want to make a difference, be sincere. If you want to make a difference, lead with compassion.